to this episode of Happy Birthday Wellness Quiz. My name is Subiri Obwogo. I'm a medical doctor and specialist in public health medicine. Today I'm going to discuss a very interesting topic that is between red meat and white meat, which is considered healthier. Now, when you talk about red meat and white meat we're basically referring to poultry and fish, whereas red meat, we're talking about beef, pork, or things like lamb. Now, the reason why we are concerned about how much red meat or white meat we are consuming is two reasons. One is there's a link between excess consumption of red meat and your risk of cardiovascular disease or heart disease, things like heart attacks and stroke. There's also a link between consumption of red meat and risk of cancer, especially cancer of the colon and cancer of the breast in women. So basically, we are concerned about the amount of saturated fats and cholesterol that you get from consuming these animal sources of proteins. Remember, you can also get protein from plant-based sources of foods, such as beans, things like lentils, legumes, are also quite rich in proteins. So basically, there are six things I want us to talk about if you want to reduce your risk of heart attack and stroke or cancer from consuming excess amount of saturated fats and cholesterol in either white meat or red meat. The first thing is things like hot dogs, ribs, sausage, and bacon are very high in saturated fats. So it's advisable to either limit or avoid consuming these types of meat. They not only increase your risk of heart attacks and stroke, but also these processed meats have been shown to be carcinogenic. And in fact, the WHO classifies them as class 1 carcinogens. The second thing is that the type of meat matters. Loin and what you call the round parts of meat are considered leaner than the other parts. Basically, by lean we mean the amount of saturated fats is less. The third thing is that even when you consume what you consider lean meat, it's advisable to trim off the excess fat because that will reduce the amount of saturated fats that you're going to consume. The other thing is to limit portions, that is how much you consume. It's advisable to limit the portions to about 6 ounces per day. That's about 2 computer mouses or 2 decks of cards per day. That's the maximum you should be consuming per day. It's advisable that you should not consume more than 450 grams of meat per week, because more than that, as you shall see in one study, will increase your risk of cardiovascular disease as well as certain types of cancers. The other question I often get is chicken. Not all parts of chicken are created equal in terms of saturated fats and cholesterol. Remember, things like wings, drumstick, as well as thighs contain as much saturated fats as beef. So if you want to consume chicken and you're concerned about saturated fats, the best portion is the breast. The breast has the least amount of saturated fats and cholesterol. The other thing to consider is that plant-based sources of proteins are also an option, so you don't have to rely on animal proteins or animal foods for proteins. So are there any studies showing the link between excess consumption of red meat and maybe cancer development or heart disease? Yes. One study which was conducted by the National Institute of Health followed up 500,000 individuals for a period of 10 years. And they were looking at the link between consumption of red meat and the risk of dying from either cancer or heart disease. That is talking about things like heart attacks, strokes, arrhythmias, or heart failure. Now, what they found is that individuals who consume more than 5 ounces of red meat per day, I said an ounce, sorry, three ounces is about a computer mouse. So 5 ounces, we talk about the size, the equivalent of 2 computer mouses. Those who consume more than 5 ounces per day had a higher likelihood of dying from either cancers or heart attacks and strokes compared to those who consumed less meat. Those who consumed fish and poultry had a lower risk of mortality or death. So the take-home message is to limit your amount of red meat, eliminate processed meats, and preferably opt for things like fish, poultry, as well as plant-based sources of proteins. This podcast was brought to you by Kike Afya. My name is Subiri Obogo. I'm a medical doctor and specialist in public health medicine. Thank you for listening. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, the link which is indicated below, for more of these episodes. Until next time, bye-bye.